Hi, everyone. Welcome to College Financial Preps Preparing for College podcast. Today, so excited to have my friend Cherie Morris here from Dear Divorce Coach. Hi, Cherie.
Hi, Vicki. So glad to be here.
So, this is a topic that we're always discussing. The work that I do at College Financial Prep, especially with, divorcing or divorced clients, there's lots of stress involved, lots of concern about finances, sometimes lots of conflict. So that's where Cherie comes in. She's the expert at helping parents with conflict. Right, Cherie?
Well, I certainly try to be, and I always try to distinguish conflict in my own life from conflict that clients have. I have to use these tools too, and I really want people to know that I lean into this as well, that I have personal experience of it. So I'm walking the walk as I'm talking the talk.
so um, I was just starting to tell Cherie before that. I mean, I was even dealing with a client this morning, and this happens quite often. I'll be speaking with a client. Their child is in high school. They're thinking about college. They're getting stressed about the finances. Unfortunately, especially in cases of divorce, both parents don't necessarily see eye to eye on what's best for the kids when it comes to college. Some divorce agreements don't mandate that both parents even contribute. Everybody has a different situation, and because there are so many unknowns, it causes lots of stress. Both when dealing with the other parent and even just like what's best for the kids and all of that inner stuff.
Yes, and Vicki, if I may, because you shared something so important, which is not all agreements talk about college, and it's a really good idea to plan for it if you can. And again, that's not to say if it's not in yours that there's a big problem. You can always cooperate for success, but to the extent you can make agreements about these things, it's much better to do it before you're in the midst of applying to college.
Definitely. Yeah, I've seen lots of lots of situations where college hadn't been addressed. They thought maybe the kids were too young, and it just causes difficulties later. So yeah, doing it up front is best if you can.
Doing
But
it up front, and then also I'm working with a co-parenting couple right now, and they can't agree on many things, but do a pretty good job when it comes to their kids. And one of the issues that has arisen is the new FAFSA, and you are the expert there, Vicki, not me. But they seem to want to give their child guidance before they know how the results of that FAFSA will look. And one of the conflict points from my perspective comes up for them. One of the flare points is when they can't do that. And I have helped them see that really calming themselves and their minds about that and understanding they may not be able to give their child clarity at this moment, still to encourage the application to a rich variety of schools, right, that would allow for merit aid, need-based aid, and some parent payment is probably the best route. That it's not catastrophic for the child to understand there are some limits there, which is, something that comes up for people. And it may be even in this case, a parent that hasn't worked outside of the home mostly, who wants her child to have all of the choices, is now just back in the job market, which is great and fine and empowering, but expects the co-parent, the one who has more resources, but still maybe not enough. I don't know if you know this, Vicki, but college is really expensive. So it's just an interesting flare point from my perspective that doesn't need to exist if we take this slow and steady, a step at the time with your guidance on the financials. Wait, don't fill the child with expectation about a particular school, but help them learn that is in most of life, a variety of possible answers can be okay.
yeah, definitely. I'm a huge believer that, if possible, the parents, ideally both parents, if not just one parent, communicate with the child. I'm not saying that you need to share like all your personal finances, but set a goal. What's affordable, what the goal is that you're working towards. Like maybe you have a budget in mind. Some schools can be, $90,000 a year now. It's crazy. Um, and maybe your goal, I'm making this up, is $30,000 a year. Share that with your child, that that's what you're working towards, and that's it. I've seen too often where May 1st is decision day, and that
Yes.
typically happens 12th grade. And the week before, the last week in April, the parents are telling the child, we just can't afford it. We can't make it work. And if that conversation was had months prior, it probably would have been easier on the parents and the child instead
Such
of
good
waiting till the last
advice.
second.
It's so true. And also during the process, remind yourself that you can't control what the other person will do. So if they're simply not willing to spend above a certain threshold, you can't necessarily force it, even if you had some agreement, or it's not worth spending resources to enforce that agreement. You have a lot of decisions to make. So the better path most often is to find acceptance in what you can do and are willing to do. You can certainly advocate for yourself, for your child in that space, but the child is better served by going to a college where it is affordable to the family system with, of course, the outside supports that you can get, which I know is why you're so valuable, because you will steer them places that might offer more merit aid if they're not likely to be a need-based family. So that's from my perspective, why you're so valuable to the system, helping them navigate such unfamiliar terrain.
And you brought up before about, a lot of times there are lots of questions and you just need to apply to lots of schools. Just so everyone knows, it is possible to project costs for colleges beforehand. And doing that, it helps with reducing some of the stress, because some of the unknowns are now a little bit more known. Is it an exact science? No, but it does help. It certainly helps to know which schools are looking just for one parent's information, which schools are looking for both parents' information. And every school uses a different formula to determine how much aid a student will receive. So it's certainly a good first step in the process, even before submitting any applications.
That's so helpful. And I think most people just don't know. You don't know what you don't know. There are only so many times you divorce, we hope, and apply to college. So doing these things, I think really bringing in focused expert support can make a real difference. And on the conflict side, because I know you see this, Vicki, that people want to do the right thing for their kids. Of course they do, but they can't get out of their own way or each other's way when it comes to even a discussion with you about how to manage this. So I thought maybe today it would be useful to share a little bit of how I work with someone in the background as you're working on the college financial piece.
That would be wonderful. I mean, when I'm working with a divorced or divorcing couple, I make sure, there's complete confidentiality. I'm not sharing financials with anybody, but we're not digging deep into the emotional conflict going on. So, so Cherie, please help us all.
Well, I think one of the things, because it's ideal to have the system, right? To have both parents, such as they are, or even more parents if you have them showing up. But coming into the meeting with you, be prepared with the information you may need, of course. But that involves emotions because it's money and I would say our shared experience. So calming yourself before these meetings is incredibly important. Vicki is a place to share the data. And yes, she can handle emotional upset. We've had complaint calls just with each other sometimes. But in truth, when working with clients and working with Vicki in particular, it's not particularly helpful to bring the conflict there because it doesn't move the ball forward for your child. So coming into these meetings, I ask that you calm yourself, and there's so many methods to do it. And one quick way before someone's hopping on a call with you, Vicki, is to do a body scan, right? See what's tight. If your shoulders are up near your ears, you have a headache, do the breath work, take a few minutes to calm your mind, your body. And that allows you to come to the space of focusing on the real issue. And right now we're talking about how to get your kid to college, and to a college that's a good fit. Not the most expensive fit, not the cheapest fit, just the right fit. So there are so many paths to success that you should not let your mind get stuck on a particular outcome. This is a process. So again, we're going to calm ourselves, and that's all we can do. We can't do anything with that other person who's showing up with a meeting, who may be your co-parent, and we're going to focus on what we need to talk about in this venue. So don't bring in past stories, remembering things that aren't relevant here. Even if they're true, they're not helpful. So I think the first and simplest tip is calming ourselves before these meetings and then allowing ourselves to focus on the meat of the matter. And I know you give parents a guide to what they should bring to these meetings and what they need to show up with. So that's a really useful place to start. Don't use Vicki as you wouldn't use your lawyer for the emotional work of your divorce. There is coaching for that. There's a specific kind of coaching that I do, and it's better left there.
Fabulous. Yeah, I see it way too often. It's hard. It's hard for the kids, and then oftentimes I'll see it with the kids that when they bring the kids to the conversations. Um, yeah, everything that you're saying is so true and so important because the saying, best interest of the kids.
Yeah.
I always want to do what's in the best interest of the kids to help them, find the right college that's, right academic fit, right social fit, right financial fit. But the stress on the parents and the child as we all like go through this to try to get there.
It's true. And I think one of the next and best practices is to think about your responses in meetings with you, outside of meetings. We're going to actually, again, going back to this idea, we've calmed ourselves, we're focusing on the issue. We're going to give responses that are just that. They're responsive, not reactive. So if it's not a question, don't answer it. And there's this method that I know you're familiar with, Vicki, called the Biff method by a guy called Bill Eddy, and it creates a way for co-parents to communicate. This can be especially important in the college application process. Keep what you need to say brief, provide only the information required, have a friendly tone. You both have the same goal. You love this kid, and leave a firm boundary if you need it. I need an answer by X date, or I will take this action by this date if I don't hear. So there's a way, again, to not bring the story of your divorce into this very particular space when your child is applying to college. And my recommendation is to really get granular and do this work because it serves you and it serves your child.
So, Cherie, do me a favor. Tell everybody how you help in the process, whether it's one parent, whether it's both parents. Like, how does it all work?
So one of the things I love doing is working with the co-parenting couple. And, we are in many ways a family system forever once we have children. So I can start with people at the beginning of their divorce, even if they're still in the contemplation phase. And we're going to create a process that will work for them. That means we're going to get them to trusted resources, people like you, if they have a kid applying to college, de-escalating lawyers. My only bias is I don't want the lawyer to make more money than the divorce is worth. We're going to have check-in sessions where we process communication skills, what's working. We can create a parenting plan. We can talk about, are you going to nest in the current home? Are you going to have separate homes? What should that schedule be for the kids? So it's a safe space where we don't escalate, but we can talk about real issues. So the way I work, for example, Vicki, if I had a couple that was working through their divorce and has multiple children, as I do, and they have a child applying to college, and now they're worried about the financial concern, I send them to you, right? They talk to you, you're a valued resource, they have meetings with you, and in the background, if something's coming up for one or both of them, we're going to have a meeting during that time, maybe even just a 30-minute check-in to say, hey, I thought you were going to do X and Y for college. And then the co-parent can respond, oh, yes, I intend to. I just don't know the answer yet to that. Or absolutely not. I never promised that. And it's a safe space and a container to talk about difficult issues without being reactive. We're still going to ask people to be responsive, bring in their best selves, use the tools and techniques I'm teaching them from our first session to calm their own minds and bodies, and keep it to focusing on the real issues. So coaching is really a very specific medium. You can have a therapist, which is great, but this space is about doing better for yourself and your children right now. So I can certainly hold the space for the difficulty that you've had, but we're really trying to keep our eye on the ball of looking forward, getting through this separation and divorce in the best way possible. And I hope keeping most of your resources in your own pocket. So that's
So that
how
way
I
you can save it to help pay for your kids' college education.
that which we all need, right? And one of the things I really believe in are these other trusted resources, like you, knowing good de-escalating lawyers, knowing mediators, knowing therapists who can help my clients in particular ways is incredibly important. And as we know, financials are incredibly important to divorce. So having people in each category of need in separation and divorce and allowing them to come back to me and then work through, well, I thought you said, no, you said, and just clearing up those miscommunications, which they most often are. Kids can be escalating. I know you'll be surprised to hear that, Vicki, but sometimes our kids say things to one parent that we're escalating and not true because, again, they're not mature enough, right? So we want to keep them in the zone of informed about their lives, but not over educated about the facts of divorce between mom and dad, which is an adult issue. So I really try to work on these tips and tools throughout the entire process, from, discernment, which is really deciding whether to divorce, all the way to co-parenting after divorce. And there's a couple I'm working with now where we have quarterly meetings, 4 meetings a year, and they've been divorced 2 years, and we started during the divorce. So it's a way to keep people gently accountable to the values we set at the beginning. And it can make a real difference in places like applying for college, I think.
Definitely. That's fabulous. Yeah, as you were speaking, I'm thinking about, the way kids manipulate and may say one thing to one parent and one thing to the other parent, and all the drama that can cause.
It sure can. And of course, we want to blame our co-parent because, sure, we don't want to blame the kid. And then you find out, well, maybe it's not about blame, but it's just about their own upset or immaturity because they're just kids. And so I always encourage, after these interactions, it's kind of the final step of this process. I'm hoping to share with your listeners a one sheet that's called Dealing with Difficult People. And co-parents can be difficult people. So the last step of this process, after you've done the calming of yourself, focusing on the real issue, determining a response, not a reaction, checking in with your trusted resources, is take notice. What do you notice after you've used these tools? Has it gone better for you? Has it gone better for your kids? Yes, you may not always feel as heard as you need to be, but there's certainly a trusted friend for that, right? It doesn't have to be your co-parent. So once you've taken this journey and used these tools, I think you'll find the process is not only better for your co-parent, because honestly, that's not your primary concern. It's better for you, Vicki, and it's better for me, and it's better for our kids. So that's the holistic approach to divorce that I think can really impact and change people's lives and the course of their futures. And we waste less money and time, spending it
Stress
where,
and energy.
So yes, that emotional energy. How much time are we in our heads about our co-parent and they're not thinking about us at all? They're living their best lives as far as we know, and we're spending time and energy on them. So to the extent we cannot do that and, really streamline this process, I love it. I love this work, and I love knowing you're there as a valuable resource for this college preparation, because it's not easy and it seems overwhelming, and especially doing things like the FAFSA if parents have never done it before. And so just holding them in that space and knowing that they can do it in a civil way, I think can really transform lives and make sure that their kids become the functional adults that we all want our kids to be.
Definitely, definitely. Oh, I'm so happy that you were able to join us today. I've known Cherie for years and years and years, and she is definitely the trusted divorce coach that, I'm always going to for help and guidance.
Thank you so much, Vicki. And I will share this one page with you so you can share it with your listeners in whichever way it might be useful to them. And
Yeah, for everyone, it's going to be, you can always go back to the description on YouTube. It'll be there with an introduction to Cherie and how to reach out to her.
that's great. And most resources for me are at Dear Divorce Coach. I'd love to see you there. Lots of no obligation advice, and you can schedule a discovery Zoom there too.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for joining me today, Cherie. Thank you so much for watching. And if you need any help with college financial planning, reach out to collegefinancialprep.com or reach out to Cherie at deardivorcecoach.com. See you soon. Bye.